Who knows? Well, first, oh, I forgot. If you have a laptop and you want to plug in to, I'm having trouble with the wireless. If you have a laptop with an Ethernet jack and you want to get on the AREDN network, you're going to have to come and set up here. I got some long network cables, so if you guys want to come in and set up, you can try and connect to the wireless AREDN network. It's the one that is just the open call. And actually, everyone can do this on their phone, too. I'm not really sure if it's going to work. But if you come to the wireless settings and you go to this AREDN 2.0-V3, try it. I'm not saying that it's going to work, but it's working wired. I'm just having trouble with this device down here broadcasting the SSID. Yeah, it might be. Well, this is a good stress test. It's probably. Yeah, it's this one right here, the AREDN 2.0 version 3. I'm not doing tech support here, so if you can't connect, yeah, you're out of luck. It's not secured. No, there's no password. Yeah. No, the no-call AREDN is the AREDN mesh network that's meshing together. You could try and connect to that. I don't think you're going to be able to connect. Oh, yeah, let me hit the lights. Hit the lights. You got it? Yeah.
The iPad logged into it.
You know, I'm not doing tech support tonight, sorry.
I'm on it, so it does work.
Okay. So as people disconnect and connect, you might want to just try it during the presentation. All right. So, yeah.
You said the URL is?
Well, it's not the URL. It's this network right here.
I can't read that.
It's AREDN-20-V3. Victor 3. You should be able to see it whenever you populate your wireless networks. All right. Moving on. So I didn't come up with this presentation. I was lazy because I got a lot of stuff going on. This presentation was made by the AREDN network guys at some Hamfest, so I stole it off. At the Cactus Intertie annual meeting. I emailed Andre and said, hey, can I use your presentation? He's like, sure, why not? So,
Thanks, Andre.
Yeah, thanks, Andre. So, what is the AREDN project? There is a whole bunch of technical jargon that is what is AREDN. It is basically using 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz spectrum that we only have access to as hams, that we can put together a mesh network. And if you don't know what a mesh network is basically where access points, these guys, take a signal, and these are 5 gigahertz. They take a signal and they broadcast it out, and other nodes connect to that AREDN network, and they form a large broadcast network. Okay? And there's protocols that are built into the AREDN firmware to allow people to see how easy or how quick of a path can you get through the network to advertise services. Okay? So you put up an AREDN network, you configure the nodes, and I'll show you a node that is configured. It goes out and broadcasts out an SSID that's pre-programmed in these devices, and if it can connect, it automatically connects. There's no configuration. Once you dump the firmware on the devices that are compatible, it configures itself, it broadcasts out, it connects to that network, and then figures out what other services are out there that you can connect to. And you're probably thinking, well, what's a service? Well, I'm going to show you what a service is, but an example is, let's say that there was an AREDN network in your town and there was a flood, okay? And there was a video camera that was connected to one of these networks, and it was monitoring the river level by your house. What you could do is you could advertise that camera on the AREDN network, and anybody that connects into that AREDN network, a user, could connect into that network, or the EOC, or the local sheriff's department, or whomever could connect into that network and view that camera and see what's going on, and view that camera and view the river, okay? There are basically unlimited things that you can do on this AREDN network, and think of it as your own private internet, okay?
So is there a library of all the services that are out there?
No, it's the services that you can put on there is only limited to your imagination.
But how do you know what's there?
I'll show you.
Okay.
They're advertised. You have to advertise the service, okay?
What's typically the range from node to node?
On the 5 gigahertz band, 30 miles, line of sight. So we're not talking like in this room. We're talking Southern California shoots links 30, 50, 100 miles.
So these are all above the trees.
These are above the trees. There is a whole, if you're into network configure or network design, there's a whole, in the Cisco world, you've got cores, you've got distribution, and you've got access layers, and all your people plug into access layers if you want to get technical here. So the AREDN network is designed like that. It's got a core backbone, and then it's got distribution layers that all connect together, and then it's got access layers, which is the people or the access points that you and I connect into at our house, and we connect up to a distribution, and then that distribution connects up to a core, and then that's where all of the backbone traffic is sent.
Access points are omnidirectional?
Well, you can get, these are directional. There is a whole slew. I'll show you the hardware that you can buy and flash them with this firmware. And you can get omnidirectional, you can get directional, you can get dishes, you can get sector antennas, you can get anything, okay? So the nice thing about these devices are the ubiquity devices. There's a ton of ubiquity devices that are compatible with AREDN. They're typically $45 to $90. They're cheap. These devices that I have here, I think on Amazon, I think this is 40 bucks. Okay? And you can come up and take a look at this if you want. So what is AREDN? So it's open source. Some people, if you've been reading the forum, some people say it is open source. Some people, it's not open source. There's a whole flame war going on with open source. But anyway, it's free. So anybody that's got an amateur radio license can use it. And keep in mind, it participates not in the same spectrum that your home routers participate in, that you can buy off the shelf. These are frequencies that are not in, they're in the same bands, but they are in a different part of the band that has no congestion, okay?
Does it broadcast your call signs?
Yes, you have to, well, I haven't looked at the beacons I haven't sniffed the beacons yet to see what it broadcasts, but I would assume yes. Yeah. Because it has to broadcast out all of the node names, and typically the node name is your call sign. Yeah. But I haven't gotten that far into it. I have to preface this with, I've just gotten into this, and it's really cool, and we're going to put up an AREDN network here in St. Louis. So I decided, you know what, I needed a charter. I was going to do Fusion today, and I got 3 slides into the presentation. I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm gonna do AREDN stuff. So shorter presentation, but very cool stuff. We're gonna do this in St. Louis, so that's why I wanted to get this in front of you guys and give you a little taste. Yeah.
I can't speak for the 5 gigahertz band, Kyle, but I know 2.4, the normal Wi-Fi band is 2.4 to 2483. We hams have some channels like a 2390 below, that's just below the regular
Yep.
Wi-Fi band that we can use.
Yep, we have 3 channels below the Wi-Fi band that is dedicated to us, and on the 5.8 gigahertz, I think that there are 32 channels above. Yeah, I think it's 32. Don't quote me on that. So anyway, so it's focused on ARES, RACES. It's big in Southern California. You can imagine in Southern California, if the big earthquake hits, the internet's going to go out, but this AREDN stuff will keep going. Okay. It's very flexible. There's nightly builds. It's entirely dedicated and programmed by hams. So if you want to be part of the development program, you can be a part of that if you're a ham. And then also the developers are also hams.
So is it a managed network?
It is a non-managed network. It manages itself through the routing protocol.
That's great.
Yep. So you can connect it. So think of this as an AREDN node and a firewall. You can connect devices like you guys, some of you have connected, to the AREDN network, and you can route it out to the internet. But one of the stipulations is there is no secure traffic. It all has to be in clear text, right? So no banking, no HIPAA, no nothing secure.
So who enforces that?
A movement right now to go almost entirely SSL, and web pages that don't comply with that are actually being called out. So that's not limited to like banking and things that need to be secured. There's almost all internet traffic is being secured now. That could cause problems.
Yeah, but keep in mind the things that you're putting on this are cameras. There's a whole slew. I'll get into. There's a whole slew of stuff that I agree. You know, the internet is pushing us to secure traffic, right?
But it's
And
not public access.
it's not. Yeah, correct. It's not public access. It is. I mean, can a non-ham get to the AREDN website and download the AREDN firmware and get on the AREDN network? Yep. But anybody can go and buy a Baofeng potato and get on the repeaters, right? So it's kind of self-policing. Yeah, Paul.
Well, one thing we also have to remember is the prohibition of commercial activity on amateur radio as a whole.
Right.
You got to make sure that nothing on here can be construed as commercial activity.
Right. That's a good point. Correct. Yep. Okay. So I was talking about those layers of network. So what you can do is you've got your user domain where you connect a node up from your computer, and maybe this is your house. And then we've got, maybe this is a repeater site, and it's got a dish to another site that relays the AREDN network to other repeater sites, and then it relays to other repeater sites. So you can build this out as big as you want, as much as you can imagine, right? Southern California's got hundreds of nodes, and they all participate in the 10 dot addressing scheme. And the way that they do that, if you know anything about networking, there's like 16 million addresses that you can put on the 10 dot networking subnet. Thank you, Mark. And each AREDN node gets its own little IP address carved out of that 16 million, and it's pre-populated. Whenever you put the firmware on it, it automatically populates it with a 10-dot address based on an algorithm, based on its serial number.
So it has a static IP?
It has a static IP, right? So that's what makes it great about you can go and buy an AREDN node and connect it up to the SLSRC AREDN mesh network and just let it communicate it. Let it connect to our network, and you're guaranteed that you're not going to have an IP conflict on the network. That's the great thing about it. On the you set it and forget it is you set it up, it gets an IP scheme, you connect it to the network, and it's automatically configured. That's why it's so easy to configure these AREDN nodes in times of disaster and to deploy them, because once you have them configured, then you just boot them up and they all mesh together and they all connect together, and before you know it, you've got a mesh network running. So I've got 6 of them here, and they're all connected to one another in this room. Okay? Yep.
Yeah, quick question.
Yep.
Does this have anything to do with the, like, I think a long time ago, like a Class A, like the 44, whatever. Was
Yeah.
Does it work with that? Or
It doesn't. Nope. That was that high HSMM, right? That was that high-speed ham network. What was it called? I forgot what it was called.
Multimedia.
Yeah, high-speed multimedia. Yeah, those took the Linksys routers and you put firmware on them, and then it created a similar network. But if you take a look at their website, they haven't put out anything in like the last 7 to 10 years. It's really old. Yeah. So the way that these things link together is they have cost paths. Path costs. Whew, my dyslexia just came out there. Path costs. And as nodes come online, it uses a protocol that figures out where all the other nodes are, and it assigns a value on how quick that it can get to that other node. And then it starts building an algorithm and a chart based on if you want to get to other places, this is the cost. And of course, it's going to try and route your traffic over the lowest cost, right? That's how the internet works. Sometimes. Mostly.
So can this do voice effectively?
It can. So anything that you can do on the internet, you can do on this. It's a fully routable IP network, right? You can put SIP phones on it, voice over IP phones on it. You can put cameras on it. You can put chat services on it. You can run IRC on it. You could even game on it if you wanted to. It'd probably be really slow, but in California, Southern California, they have voice services on it. And they've got telephones in all of the repeater cabinets. And you could have one at your phone. And there's a system called, yeah, well, it uses asterisks, but it's called like Ham Talk or Ham, I forgot what it's called. I'm a horrible presenter today. It's a telephone-based system only for hams, and it meshes together, and you put the firmware on a Raspberry Pi, and it does all the configuration on the back end, and you just plug your IP phone into it, and it's like a party line, right? Mabel. So it would be very cool in a disaster where you don't have to know how to route, and you don't need to know phone numbers. All you need to know is how to get, you want to call the EOC, and it does it for you. Here are the devices. So Ubiquiti has a ton of devices. MikroTik, those are really cheap. I've got a MikroTik device up here and some TP-Link devices. Those are all compatible with the AREDN firmware. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
If you build an AREDN node or mesh, network here in St. Louis,
Yep.
and Kansas City builds one,
Yep.
and Columbia builds one,
Yep.
is there a way to link the two together, like over the internet?
There is. Yes, there is a tunneling protocol where if you got an AREDN network at your house and you were too far away from any other nodes, let's say, we built an AREDN network here in St. Louis and you lived in Festus, Missouri, but you wanted to get on the AREDN network and look at all of the advertised services that are being broadcast and participate in the network, you can install a tunneling server on your AREDN node, and then we, St. Louis Suburban Radio Club, would have a tunneling server broadcasting that on our network, and you would tunnel into our network and extend that over the internet. Now, if the internet ever went out, you're on an island, right? But that's the cool thing about the AREDN stuff is even if you're far away, we could take all of our AREDN nodes. I could take one of these AREDN nodes and connect it up to California right now, and we could take a look at cameras, call people on a chat, do a bunch of other stuff with the people in California. Yep. And the reason why we're able to do that is there's non-conflicting IP addresses in the 10 dot range, so everything is unique. Josh?
Would there be a way to identify any given node if you're scanning for it, looking for it, if that is using a tunnel connection or if it's got an independent network?
You mean scanning like on the internet?
Well, like if you're trying to make a map of available connections, and you see them here, you see them here,
Yeah.
and you've got all sorts of connectivity on this one, is there any way to tell if the connectivity is dependent on the internet, or is this one only has 3 or 4 services, but they're all independent?
Yeah.
If that goes down, they'll still be available.
Yeah, on the screen I'll show you. It shows you all of the things that it can see locally and what is going over the internet or over the tunneling server. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So again, someone asked about the range. Some configurations like those dishes can go 50 miles, line of sight. And you've got things like the Fresnel zone and other issues, trees, buildings that you have to be aware of, but you get it up high enough, it's all line of sight pretty much. As you go lower in frequency, then you can bounce things off of buildings and trees sometimes, but typically the higher you go, you gotta be line of sight. So here is a typical network. One thing that I didn't mention is we have access in the 3 gigahertz range. No one else does. So this is uncongested band or frequencies that we can buy dishes, nodes, different things in and put them in the 3 gigahertz spectrum. They're a little bit more expensive. Usually they're double to triple the cost, but you have no interference. So you might have 3 gigahertz on your backbone and then 2.4 or 2 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz down to a shelter and then 5 gigahertz kind of as a relay node. We have decided to go all 5 gigahertz since there's less congestion and there's more channels. So that's the way that we're going. So you've got backbone, deployed nodes, relay nodes. I've kind of talked behind this or about this. So backbone would be your core, your deployed nodes, or your relay nodes would be your distribution, and your deployed nodes would be at like your house. So your backbones, you'd put them on mountains, water towers, buildings, relay nodes, your hills, your tall mass buildings. A lot of times they collapse the relay nodes and the backbones into one because they just don't have enough tall buildings or mountains or hills to put their stuff on. And then your deploy nodes are typically something at your house that you would point to a repeater site or in the general direction. And this is all crowd source too, right? So the more nodes, the stronger it is, right? So here's Southern California, and this is just the backbone. Those are the nodes that communicate on the backbone. And you can see there's quite a few of them, and they all mesh together.
You just grow your backbone.
You can grow your
Or you
backbone.
expand out.
You can, yes. Yeah. There is some network planning that needs to go into this, but yeah. As you go further out, you know, down into Mexico and into Northern California, yeah, you'd grow your... So, of course, when you have a view like that, it's easier to put a backbone in, right? Yep. So here's a picture of one of those backbones on the mountaintop shooting. Yep. And here's a sector antenna. So sector antennas typically have like 60 to 120 degrees of
Beam width.
yeah, beam width. Thank you. So you put a sector antenna on top of a tall building, and you can cover a lot of area. And then here's one of their club repeater sites. So I don't know if you can see that. I don't even know if I can read it. So they've got an AREDN node, they've got a sector antenna here, and they've got a dish that relays what comes out of, or what comes in and out of this guy into that dish, and it shoots it cross country. And of course you can put it on towers. Some of these slides don't apply to us, but it's fun to see what other people do. Here's an AREDN node on top of a mountain, probably right there and right there are the AREDN. And there's an omnidirectional. Looks like that's might be a...
Sorry, which one's the omni?
This one right here. See it?
Okay.
So some more pictures of like relay sites. And you can power these by solar. They don't take a lot of power. I'm not exactly how much power, but you could easily do it by a battery and
That's probably not over 300 watts.
no.
This stuff's much over a watt.
Yeah, it's not even a watt. Yeah.
So it's not that.
Yep. They in Southern California, they have bought these cargo trailers and put repeater sites and AREDN systems in those cargo trailers that you see running down the highway. Well, here's some more sector nodes. Oh, there's a, yeah. So that was captured by a camera on the network, and they captured a fox. I think, actually, there's the camera up there. So again, relay sites. And then you can see somebody put an AREDN node in their work or apartment, stuck it to a window, and that's how they get access into the network. Okay. There's some sites out there that you can go to, and Ubiquity's got one. There's some other sites. Radio Mobile is one where you can go in and put what type of antenna, how high, put some other parameters, and it will spit you out what it thinks your coverage is going to be for that antenna and that frequency. Ubiquity's got a really cool website where you can predict line of sight. You can also do it in Google Earth, but it's a lot cooler in the Ubiquity website. So you're probably thinking, well, how do I get this firmware on the device? So you buy a device, you go to the website, you find out what's compatible. So if you go to, am I on the, went to the wrong one, but we will get there. So here is the AREDN website. If you go to software supported platform matrix, it'll give you all of the devices that are compatible and what band. So you've got 900 megahertz, you got 2.4, 3 gigahertz, and 5 gigahertz. If you're going to play around with it, I would suggest getting a 5 gigahertz. Therefore, whenever we build our network out, you don't have to rebuy anything. But you might want to think about, I'm going to put a 2 gigahertz in my house and a 5 gigahertz on my roof and have them talk to one another. Therefore, you have wireless access in your house, possibly. So if you want to know what's compatible, here it is. It's right on the... And then all of the docs, getting started guide, network design guide, you can come how-to guides. It's got a wealth of documentation. And the forums are pretty good. There's not a lot of people on the forums, but usually the developers pipe up after a couple of days and solve your issue. There's a ton of YouTube videos out on putting the firmware on the devices. So if you get stuck, you can YouTube it and it'll walk you through all of the steps. Okay? So the documentation's there. So, applications. Somebody was asking about applications. So here's some of the applications that you can use. So anything that is not encrypted, you can use it on the AREDN network. So you can do video, you can do audio, you can send over chat, you can send supply lists, anything that is not encrypted or HIPAA that has HIPAA constraints, restrictions, you can put on the AREDN network. Okay. So here's just some air traffic control, an MCOM map, damage assessments, mesh chat. So I'm going to show you mesh chat. It's running on a Raspberry Pi over here. Weather stations, remote cameras, voice over IP. You can even link DMR. We're George and I and Joe, we're going to possibly do some not DMR linking. Fusion linking. Jeez. Brain farts all day today. Websites. Kevin, does your application work over HTTPS?
Yeah.
It does? No, I can't do it, sorry. Kevin put together a really cool application that does tracking for bicycle races. It is an awesome application that we use. But you could, if Kevin rewrote his program and didn't use secure traffic, we'd be able to put it on the AREDN network. There was somebody ask a question.
You got 9 months, Kevin.
Somebody have a question? No? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I see there you have MCOM map application, which reminds me, I've since Depiction got sold, do you know of a mapping program out there that's free or almost free that we can use that would replace the Depiction?
Well, Kevin's program pretty much does that. Yeah. So,
No, they're different.
well, I don't know exact. I mean, there's some things that Depiction, that your program does, that Depiction also does, but Depiction is a more robust, like a city would use Depiction to put it. It's got more stuff in it than what Kevin's does.
What roads would be flooded first if the water was coming up and stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't play in that space now. Okay, so I'm going to run through these. So I'm going to show you Mesh Chat. I don't know if anybody has connected yet, but here's some other. So you can put management switches on this and control your switches. You can do network management through SNMP. You can do team collaboration. So it looks like Mattermost is something that doesn't use secure protocols, so you can install that on a server somewhere and put that on the network. An MCOM map. So that is, it's called MCOM map. How about that? Tickets. So tickets is people call in, hey, I've got an issue with this, and you can log the ticket, kind of like a support desk, trouble ticket, but you could customize it to do whatever you want. It doesn't have to be, IT related. All-Star is the linking, repeater linking, and kind of like Echolink, where you can link different repeaters together via All-Star. You can put your Pi-Star on it. So you could link this, put your Pi-Star on it, and link it to a DMR repeater or a Fusion repeater, and get access that way. You can do file sharing, video conferencing, air traffic control, and informational sites, so people can bring that stuff up on their phone to look at MCOM stuff. And then node and service info. I'm not really sure what that was. What's up here? Oh, some more info. So there's the AREDN network there. So I'm going to connect. So I'm connected wired to I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi. Going to connect to my wired network. So if I come down here, see how I don't know if you can see that, but my Ethernet adapter has got a 10.115.53.90. It got that. These AREDN nodes, they also have a DHCP server in them. So whenever they've got a WAN address that's 10 dot, that broadcasts out, that connects, remember? But then they also have a DHCP server installed in them, and that's how you get access to the network. So you would connect your laptop directly into your AREDN node, you would get a DHCP address, and then that's how you get on the AREDN network, okay? So here's the front page of the AREDN firmware, okay? Let me, so this node is called, there it is, AA0Z-1. And there's a naming convention that that we'll come up with. Usually it's like your call and then kind of like an area or the type of node it is, like dish or sector, and then maybe your zip code. We haven't gotten that far in the configuration, but we're going to come up with some standard ways to name these things. So you've got some different things here. You've got mesh status, you've got Wi-Fi scan, setup. So let's just go into mesh status. So somebody was talking about how, Josh, was it you? How do you know if you're connected to a tunnel or connected to other nodes? So here, I'm on AA0Z-1 local.mesh, okay? And here are all of the nodes that I can see on my mesh network. So I can see 05, or 5, 6, 7, and 3. And then I've got some neighbors over here, and I'm not going to get into the linking, but you can see that it's seeing other nodes up here and displaying them on the status page here, okay? This Wi-Fi scan, let's see. I think it's root. Hang on. There it is. So it does, you can scan all the SSIDs out there that it sees. And then setup. Let's see if it's going to go here. So here's the setup. Here is let me go to another one. Let's go to, this is a bad example. So let's go to mesh status and let's get into 03. See how I just clicked on that link and it went, so now I'm on 3 somewhere over here. I'm on node number 3. So I can go to setup and it's going to ask me, so it's root. Yeah. Yep. So the IP address of this node is 10.206.102.181. I did not assign that. It was automatically assigned.
So if you shut it down and tomorrow you fire it back up, you may get another IP address.
No, it's going to be the same IP address. It looks like that you can change it, but you can't. Okay?
So what if you shut down your node and don't use it anymore? Is that IP address just kind of like frozen in there?
No. Yeah. Yeah. Essentially.
Can use it?
Right. Essentially. Yeah. Yep. So then you've got a LAN IP address, and you can tell it. This is where the DHCP address comes in. You can tell it, I want 1 host, 5 hosts, 13 hosts, or 29 hosts. So if you advertise some devices, like let's say you have got a camera, you put a switch on this network, and you've got a camera, and you assign it, or it's DHCP. You can come in and say, oh, well, I think my network, I want it to have it 5 IP addresses, right? And you can put 5 different devices on your AREDN network, okay? Or you can come in here in 13 or 29, okay?
So those would be on your local.
Right,
layer.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can put a switch behind.
Kind of like your router at home.
Right, but you don't want to put your router.
No.
You want to put a switch. You want to put a layer 2 switch. Yep. So it broadcasts everything. And you want to have it all in the same, if you want to get nerdy, you want to have it all in the same VLAN. Okay? So you've got some other things here, DHCP forwarding and services. So this is where you broadcast your services. So let's say you put a chat server on your network and you want to advertise it to the world. Basically, all this is it would show up here. And let me go back to Let me go back to 1, and I'll show you. Setup, services. All right. So, Mesh Chat. Mesh Chat is a chat service that runs on a Raspberry Pi, and I have put Mesh Chat in. It runs on HTTP. It's hanging on, or I'm sorry, Pi Mesh. Jeez, that's my dyslexia coming in. Mesh Pi, HTTP. You should hear me try and send CW. It's horrible. It's on the Raspberry Pi because I've connected the Raspberry Pi up to a mesh node. So it sees it. It runs on port 80 and has its web server is Raspberry Pi port 80 / mesh chat. And then what you do is you advertise that service on the AREDN network. Does that make sense? Okay. So I am somebody that has put up an AREDN network or an AREDN node. I connect into the AREDN network, and I connect, and it starts to scan all of the services, and it starts to put all the services on my screen here on my laptop that are advertised in the network that it can see. So I come down here to local hosts. Oh, well, here's Mesh Chat. So let me click on that. Here's Mesh Chat. So it knew how to route to it. You didn't have to tell it. It's an advertised service. All of the people on the AREDN nodes can look at. And I just clicked on it. Here I am. I'm in. So I go in and put my call sign, AA0Z. And I use this at the dog show, so there's other stuff that's going on here. But this is the interface. It runs on this Pi that's sitting right down here. So I can come in here and say, MOBAP needs more doctors. Send. And it just sent. And it's a chat service that syncs with all of the other chat services. So you could run a chat service at your home, and you could connect in and be on the same chat service, and it would sync with this chat service. So just think if you deployed these at hospitals, right? And I just sent a message to the EOC and I said, hey, we just got 20 new patients in at MOBAP ER. As long as it didn't have patient data, you could communicate anybody that's connected to the mesh. Or I'm sorry, anybody that's connected, that's got the mesh chat open on the AREDN network, not over the internet, right?
How many things can you have open simultaneously?
How many things you can have open? What do you mean?
Well, services. Can you have,
Well,
is
it's
it one at a time?
no. You can have. So I could stream a camera on another tab. I could have mesh chat open. I could be doing a phone call. Somebody could be on the phone call. Now, obviously, you can. Whenever you get on the internet and you stream Netflix at 7 p.m., what happens?
Yeah.
The bandwidth. So the bandwidth is limited, right? But that's just the world we live in.
So my understanding of mesh networks is they really break down multiple hops because the latency increases exponentially.
It does.
Because there are a number of hops that is you can probably establish a voice call over this number of hops, or you can only get
Yeah.
after that.
I'm sure that there is. I don't know that number, but that's where those backbones come in.
On each hop, and via Wi-Fi, if we get past 30 milliseconds, it starts to get garbage.
Yep.
So does this chat, does it go to everyone or a group, or like, is it segmentable, I guess?
It is.
Can you say, I want this message to go to
Yep. So whenever you configure this chat and you make it an advertised service, you give it a name. like MeshPy. You could give your mesh chat a name as Kai's chat, okay? And they're two totally independent chats. Unless I configure my Pi to connect to your Kai chat, I'm never going to see your messages. But keep in mind, it's all open. It's all broadcast, right? Just like amateur radio, right? You turn to the repeater frequency, you're hearing what's broadcast, right? So, could I connect to your chat and not know it? Of course. Same thing as listening, right? So typically what happens is the city decides on a chat name and they all connect to it, like, EOC or something, right? And they all connect to that chat, and it's the rules, right? So the reason why everyone obeys the rules on the repeater is because all of your broadcasts are traceable, and people are looking out for one another, and there's rules. There's rules around this. So there's another. Yeah, Victor.
So, stupid question. From the very beginning, I have a laptop that has a browser and it can connect Wi-Fi to anywhere.
Yep.
I can connect to you. I see this A020 and it connects it for a few seconds. Then it
Then it disconnects. Yeah.
What do I have to do so I get there?
Yeah, I'll come over and I'll do a little technical stuff, and if you came over here and connected wired, you'd be able to get into it and be reliable just like mine. I think it's because of some issues that I've got on this router, that the wireless is not working. I'm sorry.
Actually, my question is this a browser or what?
Yeah, it's a browser. Yeah. Yeah, I got this up in Chrome. Yeah. Yeah. So the great thing about the AREDN network is you don't have to be a network administrator or know anything about networking to put an AREDN network at your house. All you need to do is basically go to the YouTube video, fire up the YouTube, follow the instructions to get the firmware on it, and it configures itself automatically, almost. You have to put the name. You have to go to this screen and tell it a name, but it's the first time you fire it up and you plug your laptop in, it'll walk you through all that stuff. So you put the name for the nomenclature that, and you could go rogue too and put whatever name you wanted to, who cares, right? But it would walk you through that, and you connect your laptop in, and it broadcasts out, and it connects to the main network, if it can see a node. And then before you know it, things start to populate over here, and your local services start to populate. And Kai might have a server, and Kevin's got a voice over IP server that you can configure a phone to. And people put documents up there too, like standard operating procedures. Like if you want to connect to my phone system, here's the instructions on how to connect to my phone system. Or here is a Raspberry Pi running a web server, and here's my own little personal web server on the AREDN network, right? So just think of it as an internet that you can't put HTTPS on. Anything else is you can do. Paul, you got a question first.
Two questions. Does it release HTTPS?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Second question that follows on directly behind that is, how does this stay within the licensing structure of amateur radio? If anybody can get out there and get these devices and drop this firmware on there, how are we going to maintain the integrity of the licensing and it doesn't turn into 11 meters?
Same thing with the Baofungs, where hopefully they get bored and you start to ignore them and they go away. Your question around how can somebody else, if somebody gets on here and there is a way that you can block people. You can block a node. You have to get into the programming, but you can do that.
Don't we in effect become a third-party operator if somebody gets into the system through our, say, a voice over IP in our house, and it's tied in, somebody else picks up that phone? Don't we then, as the licensee, become the control operator for it?
Yeah.
And then a third-party operator, or a third-party?
I haven't gotten that far, but I would assume that, yeah, if you are putting nodes up at your house, just like we are repeater operators, that we are control operators.
Right.
Yep.
Can the firmware on a node be upgraded through the net?
Yes.
See, that makes it very open to any hacker.
Oh, through the internet?
No, through the net. Somebody puts up a rogue node and wants to upgrade your firmware.
Oh, no. No, because whenever you configure a node, you configure it with your password. So did you see how I logged in with root and then it had a password? Yeah, I have a password on mine, and if I control 3 nodes at my house, you don't have my password. Yeah. Now, is the password all in clear text? Yes. But that's amateur radio, right? Josh?
I've got other security questions, but one thing I was thinking about is that your device you've got is pretty large. I've got what I call a hockey puck router. You know, just this tiny little Wi-Fi
Yep.
access point that can charge off, or that can be powered off of a 5-volt cell phone
Yeah.
battery pack. I was wondering if any of those are capable of accepting this firmware to have something you could put in a backpack and just be totally portable with.
Probably not. You'd have to go to the supported matrix. So I know for a fact I downloaded the wrong firmware and put it on here, and it went bonkers. So if you can hack it to make it work, that's great. But they test per device. Yep. It's not like Linux where you're like, oh, I'm going to throw it on here and see if it compiles. It's not like that.
Well, I was just thinking because cell phones wouldn't be able to operate on the channels that they're using.
No, but you can connect to, like the wireless network that I've got that nobody can connect to. Whenever I tested it, it worked. Of course, the mechanic the car was doing this and now it's not doing it. You could put a node in your house and make it a broadcast node and connect to that node, and then you could get to mess chat on your phone,
But if you're out hiking and you're in an area
No.
that's established one of these networks, you would need a couple different devices to be able to.
Correct. These are mostly for deployable, like EOCs, Red Cross, hospitals, your house, typically. Yeah.
You could build your own private Wi-Fi within your home too.
Oh yeah, you could. The question was, you could easily build your own a Wi-Fi network in your house that is AREDN, and that's what I'm probably going to do. Is I'm going to have a couple on my house and one in my basement that broadcasts out the AREDN network so I can get to my laptop, and I just change networks, right? Just like if you had a 2.4 or 5 gigahertz network in your house, you just change between the two if you wanted. Same thing. So that's all I had on the AREDN network. Yeah. So it is very nerdy, but it's very cool, and we are going to try and put a network in 2020. So be looking for more information. So, all right. Thank you all.